Hello, everybody. Welcome on the Lights on Data show. My name is George Firican, and I'm your host. Today, we're diving into a crucial topic for any marketing leader or data professional, and that's how to truly leverage data governance and transforming marketing data into business growth. Just imagine a world where marketing departments have a single shared data language and a streamlined way to measure the impact of every campaign. Sounds pretty ideal, right? But of course, achieving that level of clarity and control over data is often easier said than done. And that's why I'm very thrilled to have Kasper Bossen-Rasmussen, founder and CEO of Accutics, with us today to learn some practical steps and see how it should be done. Welcome, Kasper.
Thank you very much, George. I'm excited to participate.
Oh, likewise, I'm very, very lucky to have you on the Lights on Data show and to cover this really important topic. But first, I would like to tell our audience a little bit about yourself because I find it very interesting. You have a background as a web analytics consultant and head of business analytics at Momondo. You've also experienced firsthand the challenges of underlying data governance and its impact on business operations and costs. And I think that's golden. And coupled with your master's degree in computer science, you've then decided to address the problem at scale by developing the first version of Accutics. So I'm very excited to hear more about that today. But fast forwarding even more, right now already Accutics stands as the best of breed SaaS platform that's enabling a shared data language for the world's largest corporations. So the vision has come to life, making data standardization simpler than ever before to enforce. So congrats already.
Thank you very much, George. Definitely, it's been a journey, I will say. There's a lot.
Sure.
I mean, the world is moving fast, right? So it takes a
Yeah,
lot to start.
yeah. Like you said, it's a journey. It's not, a project with an end date. Data governance keeps on going, and you have to keep on adapting. And it's something that you need to keep on investing. And I'm sure Accutics is always evolving as well with it.
Trying to make data governance as easy as it should be, right? But it's a big topic. It's a complex topic, and we're doing our best to address it at least.
For sure, for sure. Well, today we wanted to benefit from your presence, of course, and talk about the journey of transforming marketing data into business growth. And I remember before the show, we had a couple of talks, and you're mentioning that you had this recent survey that revealed some striking insights about the challenges that marketing leaders face in providing impact. Can you please share a little bit about what you've discovered from the survey and its implications for the industry?
Yeah, I mean, we did a broad survey across different verticals within the industry here. We're working with mainly, top tier customers, enterprise customers across market, actually globally. So these are the ones that have been included in the survey here. It turns out that 3 out of 4 that we asked here are facing challenges, actually proving impact within marketing with the data that they currently have. It was really an eye opener because everyone talking about these big media budgets and where to invest and all, but it turns out that most actually they're struggling here, proving the impacts and proving the results. Despite that, we're seeing larger and larger marketing spends and budgets being put into marketing platforms and so on. But if we don't have the data to back it up, where do we go? And actually, it's interesting to think about that most of these marketeers that we asked, also thinking that not having the right data quality will play an impact in them actually losing positions to their competitions, which is some sort of a paradox you can say, as you can say, marketing data quality was only rated, like, was it 5 to 6 or so out of 10 on average in terms of importance within the organizations. So there's really something that can be done here. And there's a ton of value that can be added here.
For sure. There's this other survey from TDWI that comes up every year, and they, survey different industries at different levels and company levels. And they really want to understand the drivers for different data initiatives, including data governance. And I think for, I don't know how many years in a row now, one of the main drivers for data governance is still data quality. So companies, they want to improve data quality, and of course for other reasons, for other business focus reasons why they want that good data quality. But that's one of the main reasons why they're then investing in data governance. So they definitely go hand in hand too.
Yeah, I think so. And something that we're working towards, at least, is also tying this value part. And what is the value of good data quality? I mean, obviously, buying a tool where you, I don't know, can increase your audiences and you see your conversion rates are going up with, or I don't know, X%, that has a closer, relatable, direct revenue impact. So you can really say, okay, this is because of this tool here. But what's the value of data quality? I mean, the value lies within lots of tools in your marketing stack, and probably a few steps ahead, a few steps further down within them.
Yeah.
So it is about us seeing, well, yeah, can
So
say establishing the value of data quality.
So from that survey, and of course your experience and that of your customer base, what are those 4 key learnings that you had?
We investigated within our own customer base. What are the big drivers or the main reasons? That's we actually see that they're outperforming the verticals with 155% or so within the competitions. I would say the biggest learning for this was actually all these customers, they have this global naming conventions embedded within the organization. So they're actually quite advanced. They're sophisticated. They're mature in their data governance, both from in the application for UL tracking, but also in the naming conventions across all marketing activities. That was I can say, I wouldn't say it's a big eye opener, but it's nice to see that there is a common thing here that actually says something about success in terms of data. So that was quite nice. And the second learning that we had in here is that data quality is not a one-stop shop here. It's not a one-stop process.
Yeah.
Many think that data quality and data governance is something that, okay, let's run a project here, we'll run it for a few months, and then that's settled, and we're good to go with the next one here. We need to pay attention that it's not a, I think many people have said it before, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? It's not a revolution, it's an evolution. I mean, there's so many,
Nice.
you can say, different words around it, right? But it evolves over time, and that's also something we need to consider here. Start with a tangible model and then move on, include teams, be more advanced, and so on. And these companies here with this great success actually created a foundation that they could use right away, and then they started evolve from there. A strategy that I'm actually going to talk about. I think we're going to talk about a little bit later on as well. And then there's the third learning here, and that's, can I say, bringing the ownership up in the management stack or in the management layer within the organization, because data quality, data governance, I mean, data essentially fuels almost all projects within the organization, right? I mean, you need to build stuff from, I mean, what data says, what makes sense, right? You have this proper reasoning around it. You need to have data to back up your reasoning to actually move on with a project. So it fuels project. And now within this era that we're currently in, the time AI, I guess everyone talks about it, right? I think our feeds are filled with it, and it does so many fantastic and impressive things. But we need to keep in mind that it's trained on data. It relies on proper data. I have a very good, I think it's a nice meme. I'm not gonna, I mean, good data, or can I say it's actually called not nice data, and then AI is gonna be not nice AI, right? In bad words, essentially.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. And then the final learning, I think, that's the process. So big organizations, when marketing really embeds data governance processes, they can set the tone, they can set the style, how the organization works. So if this department, which usually plays a big role within the organization in terms of media spend and brand awareness and all these things here, suddenly start operating a lot on data and actually backs up decisioning on data, it does create waves within the organization to have all the people starting working in the same fashion. At least that's what we have seen. So those are probably the 4 main drivers and learnings that we've seen from this.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I do want to go over into each one, but just to recap really quickly. So first, you mentioned that global structure for data that organizations should have. The fact that data quality is not a project, and we need to keep on investing into it constantly. And of course, this is at the basis for anything that we're doing, right? Single source of truth and everything else. Third is the fact that we need to keep on focusing that investment on data governance as a fuel for other data projects as well. And lastly, the whole process and how data governance needs to be embedded within everything and as a standard for the entire organization.
Exactly.
So stepping into that first one, that first key learning that really highlights again the importance of a global structure for naming and tracking marketing data. First of all, what does that mean? And second of all, then how would the organization benefit from this?
Can I say that the benefit of this naming convention part here, first of all, there's a collaboration answer, because when an organization embeds, or when an organization does not embed a shared data language or shared data model, which ultimately is data governance, right?
Yeah.
Then we have this very siloed approach to approaching data and operating with data. I mean, we're seeing in most companies that we're addressing here, and I still, even though we're doing our best here, best guess is most companies in the world are still working on siloed data or data at different levels, essentially, because we have a marketing teams, and marketing teams are, I mean, that's a broad term already. Marketing within social media. Well, okay, in social media we have paid, we have owned. Okay, different markets, different teams within it, etc. Right? And if we don't have this common sense of a data language, then everybody works on their own data foundation or data definitions, essentially. So when we bring in data governance and bringing this structure to the company where they talk the same language, regardless of the channel, of the source, of the project, of the team, of the market, etc., the benefit is that company essentially talks the same language here. So whenever they can say have projects or meetings or big decisions, I mean, where should we spend money? What should we invest in? What should we focus on? The reasoning behind it comes from the same foundation, meaning that it's a solid reason. It's a proper reasoning. It's a data you can trust. I think trust is a key essence here when we talk about this. It is about establishing trust in data within the organization.
Right.
When we have this.
So can we mention a specific example? So is it, let's take digital marketing data, for example, and look at video views. Is that defining what that means? Because a video view in Facebook means something else than on YouTube. For example, in Facebook, I don't know, but maybe you need to watch at least 3 seconds, whereas on YouTube it's at least 10 seconds. So then you need to understand those differences and standardize it, so that when you're using that term interchangeably, well, maybe you shouldn't, because they do mean different things and they count different things.
That's one way of doing it, because then we start about data aggregation across media platforms. So what is
Right.
a video? And I think that George is a great example, because impressions one thing. What about clicks? Take most social media platforms. They have clicks to their social media websites. I mean, within the social plan, so company pages. That's what it's called. But you can also have outbound clicks, right? And so many other types of clicks. So what are we actually operating on here? Definitely that. And that's from the technical point of view. What does that mean? But also from the naming part, when you click an ad or something, what's an awareness campaign? What's a conversion campaign? What's a prospecting campaign? I mean, all these different types of campaign types. What's the objectives? What's the channel? What's the source? What's the market? Who's the owner? Do we have our, imagine you have a campaign activations across your markets for the same brand, but they all rely to like a global campaign initiatives from global corporate.
Right.
How do we tie these things together so we can see that it's actually the same budget here that are having different, can say, activities across markets or even across channels within a single market? So it's about making sure that the data holds the same taxonomy, same definitions. That when you say Facebook, for instance, I say Meta. Well, it's the same platform, right? How do we align on this? So that's it.
Yeah. And you touched on the attribution as well as being that crucial aspect too. And
Oh yeah, attribution is. I remember I started as a consultant for it also back in 15 years ago, and I know that's all started before that as well. So, but I have tried a few things, and then seen the evolution of attribution models and the number of attribution models that are getting added to analytics platforms and media platforms as well are insane. But I mean, there's definitely something to keep in mind here, because companies have, there's analytics and there's marketing, often two different departments, right? And we have analytics embedded within our websites, and that could be from various different providers. And then we have our marketing stack as well: social marketing, display marketing, search marketing, CRM, etc., and all this. But there is the can I say the obstacle here, and that's cookie consents, ad blockers, other blockers within the browser, or ITP from Safari, for instance, natively blocking tracking requests, etc. It means that the data that we see in analytics are getting lower and lower, essentially, because there are less people that are consenting to sending the traffic, essentially. It means that suddenly attribution to hardcore conversions, it's getting lower. Well, not the attribution, but the data for the conversions getting low on the website. So more, at least we see that there's a trend to do more and more reporting on the top level data within marketing platforms. So now suddenly we're starting a shift where reporting is done on more, say, top funnel metrics like clicks, impressions, and the interactions within media platforms, and then doing an estimation based on that towards conversions. It means that governance, 10 years ago, was mostly focused on links. We all know UTMs and all this stuff here, right? But suddenly there's a shift for naming, and that actually suddenly spreads within organizations. So what's naming? Well, naming is for media activities. It's for assets that we use in, all our creatives, essentially. How can we make sure that if this commercial or this ad really works, is it because of the audience? Is it because of the creative? What was the creative actually about, etc.? And what about planning? What about budgets? What about everything, essentially? So data governance has really evolved in terms of this.
Right. So on the second learning on the data quality piece, what would you say are some of those initial steps that organizations should take to ensure better data quality?
There's definitely a step of, call it stakeholder management. We already mentioned many different teams within our business that are creating activities, etc. From a marketing perspective. The first thing would be to align on the data here. At Accutics, we have clients, we have companies that are working with, tracking activities of 50, 60, 70 different attributes within it. So they're filling out for each activity. That's a lot of metadata to each. We also have customers that are working with 5. And I'm not saying that the 6 customers with 70 attributes are better than the 5, because if the company with 5 attributes are using it 100% consistently and the other one are using it 20% consistently, I would rather have the 5 I can trust. So it is about stakeholder management, making sure that we are only tracking or capturing or defining what we actually need to use the data. And here's a learning as well, because in my opinion, at least in our opinion in Accutics, using the data is not just reporting. It's actually activating and making decisions based on the data, because that's where we get the value from the data, not just pushing it on a dashboard or printing a PowerPoint or something, right? But what I'm actually going at here is that we need to have some alignment between the different stakeholders here. What are we tracking? What do we need within our data governance, in our taxonomy, in our naming conventions? Because we often see that there are some teams that put it down to creative level, creative dimensions, creative descriptions, etc., whereas another team just want to make sure that they can track that channel and the source they're sending traffic from, essentially, from a marketing point of view.
So you need that shared data language
exactly
that everybody can benefit from.
Exactly. Or at least have a foundation, right? You say, our shared data language is 80% compliant across all sources. So then we have our channels, then we have some level of flexibility.
But then I feel the challenge is also how do you maintain it without having it become the wild west that everybody does everything and it's like, oh well, no, this is gonna suit my department and this one will, or my needs, my project, and it can become unruly too.
Oh yes.
So do you have any recommendations on what organizations can do to mitigate that risk?
I would say it ties together with what you also touched upon previously, the evolution part here, right? This is not something that we can create it as a project for 2 months, sit out there and then leave it as is. We need to have need to have an owner. I'm not sure what the role should be called, taxonomy owner, naming governance owner, or something like that. But at least an owner of the setup in here, and the setup being the data governance and naming conventions, etc. So whenever there are changes there, it's formalized for this person here who orchestrates it across the platforms that are using it, etc. Because otherwise, as you said, it will be the Wild West. It will take, I don't know, 5 days, and you have suddenly. We've seen it so many times, right? You create a naming convention in a spreadsheet, share it with your coworkers, teams, markets, and so on. It will take seconds before there are new fields, there are new values, etc., and creating it. So
Yeah.
there needs to be owners.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. One of the courses that I teach is on business glossaries, which is kind of how to manage the business metadata, if you will. So, how do you define a customer across the organization, but then for the individual departments as well, click-through rate, and all these terms, and how do you define them, and then how do you tie that to the data? And that taxonomy, like you said, it's one of the most crucial things to set up. But it's also, yes, there are best practices, but there's nothing that kind of fits everyone's needs too. I've even consulted with people that had a master in librarian studies, and how they're indexing all of that stuff. And there's different techniques, but you kind of need to see what works for your needs, for your organization, even culture, and then kind of adopt and adapt as you go along.
Yeah, exactly. It is about finding this common ground. I mean, it's difficult to make sure everyone is happy here, right? I mean, you can work with big enterprises. You're sitting with departments of, I don't know, hundreds of people, even thousands of people, right? You need to agree on a taxonomy. And then you have internal and external agencies as well, right? Who actually plays a surprisingly big role in defining conventions in terms of reporting and all. How do we make sure that everyone is satisfied with the convention? I mean, it's a bit difficult,
Right.
but getting that shared portion as big as possible, making them able to do this cross-channel reporting and so on trustworthy data. I think that's essential. Right.
Yeah, and that fuels data quality as well. You need to have that set up in order to maintain it, measure it, and everything else.
Exactly.
All right. So the third learning on that investment in data governance is the fuel for any other data project. I think anything that relies on data, you need to have that data governance in place. And you were mentioning the meme with the AI, which I'm imagining right now. I'll try and find it and share it with everybody as well. But how would you say that strong data governance supports the implementation of AI or any other advanced technologies in any data product?
I think it's can I say take our an email automation platform, for instance. How do we report on the success of that? Well, it could be on the increase of conversions based on the audience we're sending data
Hmm.
to. Cool. How do we measure the conversions? That's with analytics. We can attribute that back to emails, particularly for this new email tool that we're sending out. How we do that? Well, that needs to be going through the URL. So the URL needs to have some sort of consistent tracking parameter so we can attribute it correctly back into this new email tool that is sending it out. And then we are back to data governance essentially, because if you don't have a taxonomy for this, how do we can make sure that we get all of the data? We're doing some sort of consultancy for our clients as well when we're setting up within Accutics and so on. And we're looking at the data right now, that the current state of data, and then after they've used Accutics as well. And the thing is, many of these learnings that we see, users and people have a tendency to say, oh, but that's so easy, I can quickly fix that.
Hmm.
But the thing is, you need to think about it at scale. So when you have 500 people, I can quickly fix that. You have our naming conventions with underscores, right? And the third element is always the customer type, whether it's prospecting or a remarketing part here. But if they forgot that, suddenly the fourth or third element becomes the market type instead. I mean, then you have a mix-up, right? And you probably have some system that relies on delimiter separations if you don't feed the metadata
Right.
directly to them. So there's something here. So in terms of the AI part here, AI also relies on data quality. I mean, AI is not, it's not just, we're not there yet where we just type in our bank account and AI can just grab our money and push out marketing activities and we don't look at it anyway, right? So there is some reporting done, there is some optimization done, and AI needs to react on the data as well and know the data and what channel does it come from, what should I optimize against it, and so what should I reallocate spend, etc. So it is, I mean, data governance, data quality fuels fuels this for sure. AIs are, you can say, it's a fantastic thing because data quality has never been more important than it is currently. Just think that we're still on the high point on AI here, and people can say, oh, I can do this, all these magical things here, but it will come a point where people actually say, oh, we actually need the foundation right before we can build the house and then the hotel.
Oh, for sure.
On
You
it.
know, at last year's conferences that I participated at, there were a lot of vendors that talked about AI. So everything was AI, you know, with ChatGPT coming up, right? And there was renewed interest in it. And this year, I find a bit more of a shift that people are now talking about. Hey, you have to have the foundation right. If you want to have AI, go into foundation. I'm very happy to hear that. And I think maybe that's one of the great benefits of AI being in focus, that there's a little bit more traction on data governance, on data quality, and making sure you have this base layer set up properly, so then you can take advantage of all these amazing tools.
I mean, AI is trained on data, right? And lots of data, different models trained on different data libraries, etc. It's just trained on the data. I mean, it doesn't have a conscious yet, at least.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of statistics in it, but the data is trained on. I mean, if that wasn't correct, and we can see some. I mean, there's all these examples where people are asking, I don't know, ChatGPT about something specifically, and the answer is completely off the moon, right? That's back to data quality. What's the quality of the trained data? And
Yeah,
that's where we're at.
for sure. And so the final learning on the whole process. So marketing departments that prioritize data governance can really set that standard for the entire organization. We've seen this happening before. Back in the 80s, it was with the marketing department that kind of made a push for the data warehouse and the need to have that architecture in place so they could benefit from having all these insights from all over the organization to feed into the central environment where they could mine it and have reporting on it and have those wonderful insights to get them a better understanding of their customers and trends and everything else. And you know, sometimes this is an avenue that organizations take. They've set the spark within one department, being marketing, where data governance starts and then flourishes and pushes outwards, right? Are there any strategies that you think of that they can employ to become trendsetters in data practices?
Can I say marketing is, and then I might be wrong, but at least from what I have seen with the companies I work with, both as consultants within Booking Holdings and Momondo part there, and Accutics, is that marketing is a department that are very fast paced. I mean, there are many
Hmm.
tools involved.
And data
There
driven,
are
or right by just by default.
exactly right, and I mean, just quantity of data. There's so much data. I mean, in here in marketing, so much is happening. So I really think when marketing starts setting a direction and say, okay, we're trusting, we're believing on our data. We actually are using our data that we have in here. We can back up our decisions. We have proper reasoning behind it because we can trust it here. It sets a standard for the organization and the business. When we have such our, can say, forward-thinking company, fast-moving departments that are embedding these tools and these best practices here for data, it sets a standard for the entire organization. We can see that for sure. We had a client, we have a company where they really embedded this practice of data governance. Actually, it turned out that after 3 months, they had a data quality score, compliance score of, I think it was almost 97% across all the media channels. It was super impressive. They built this big performance dashboards in marketing around this, where they have all the data that used to be siloed suddenly was brought into a one big dashboard. All display media data, performance related data, search related
Mhm.
data, social related data, all joined together with analytics data and their actual system of the conversions data. Essentially, it's a big B2B company here, and the result of this is that they can clearly see what channels are driving the most impacts, both across last touch. But the learning from this is actually, and they set that out here, that every time that a user looks at the dashboard, every individual, they say there was a time saving of 1 hour in terms of data cleaning, preparation, and aggregation, and just using the data essentially. So
Mm.
every time a user throughout the day looks at the dashboard, 1 hour time savings in terms of a data science time,
Well,
essentially.
yeah, that's an inspiring story. One recommendation that I do have from my experience is, if you are starting something from within a department, such as the data governance program initiative, to try not to do that in silo. I mean, you might in the beginning, but then try and include all the other departments that might be affected. Otherwise, the cost to grow might be a bit higher in the end if you don't include the other stakeholders from the beginning. So let's take an example talking about the taxonomies and the common data structure and data language, naming conventions, and everything else. Let's say you want to define customer sale conversion rate.
Mhm.
If you're just doing that from the point of view of marketing without maybe including the sales department or supply chain or other departments that might have a stake into it, you may be missing out on certain details that you should be mindful of and include. So it's good to maybe do like a racing matrix and figure out who are the other stakeholders that have a stake in it, include them, and have a more thorough and overview over whatever you're building from the start.
Absolutely. Yeah, key point there. Definitely, George. Definitely. And then it's, say, keep it simple. We've heard it so many
Mm,
times before, right? Better, can I say, have small incremental gains, achieve something, than have this big project that takes a year to implement and not really getting rolled out properly. Having these incremental gains where you say, let's start small, but let's get everybody to cooperate on this process here. Have them really, because data governance is something about the tools, but also about the users, the people, right?
yeah.
We need to have the organization actually buy into the process and do it.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. What you said, have the it's better to have small steps than have bigger ones, but they're also less frequent,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
people kind of forget about what you're trying to do in the first place.
Consistency is key, right?
Mm,
In data governance.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and I think people can lose focus, or the organization can sort of lose focus of it if you don't have that consistency, and you need to keep on tying it back to the business need, why this is important for the organization, for the unit, even for the individual. You
Mhm,
need
mhm.
to always drive in that message that what's in it for me.
Yeah.
So, Casper, please tell me a little bit about how Accutics enables organizations to implement the key learnings that you've outlined.
Can I say Accutics is a platform, and that's why data governance is what we eat every day here at Accutics. We have some core products to help with that. Standardize being the first one, and essentially it's about standardizing the data, right? So everything we talked about here in terms of data governance and taxonomies and conventions and so on, it needs to be backed up by a process. And traditionally, a process has been doing it in spreadsheets, but we all know and can see that gets out of sync in, a minute or two.
Yeah.
So, and what about data integrations? How to make sure that all the metadata is fed into our data warehouse? We can build reports within, etc. How do we, feed updates, etc. to this? And that's standardized. So build on taxonomies, put in there, have everyone to, agencies, internal, external users, actually use Accutics to create naming, tracking codes, and so on, using activities, and have Accutics feed the data downstream, essentially, for reporting part. Then we can really build trust in the data. And on top of that, then it's about validating that these processes actually been followed.
Hmm.
So by native integrations to media platforms, actually validating that the naming conventions you set up are consistent to a convention that you have defined in Accutics. That's like an ongoing automation of our compliance score calculation. So suddenly you can log in and actually see, oh, my meta ads, for instance, are, I don't know, 89% compliant. It actually means that when we use the data, we have a trust score of our confidence level of 89% here. I mean, yes, it was a fantastic campaign, but well, we can only trust almost 90% of the data. So there's a 10% gap here.
Yeah.
So it does say something around this. And then the final part is Accutics Connect, a third product where we connect all the metadata together. So like joining performance data, cost clicks impressions with analytics data or media platform data, and fuel that into a dashboard, for instance. So we can say top funnel to conversion data. Quite interesting to see how that works.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, it's helping set up that foundation and then simplify the roadmap for improving your data governance program.
Yeah, exactly. But most important is the standardization part, right? Because we are just humans. If the process are not easy, and the Friday afternoon, we all know that we're going home, right? So
Right.
it really needs to have a tool here, and that's what we're trying to do with Qt, making it easy as possible to actually embed these processes here from data governance perspective.
And Casper, on the standardization piece, to already have some defaults, some things that you can already provide. Who a company that's being onboarded on using Accutics to say, hey, we already have these standards in place. You can use them or you can modify them for your need.
Yeah, exactly. So the tool is 100% configurable. So you can say most companies or clients that we're onboarding, they have like these spreadsheets or Google Sheets with some sort of taxonomy is
Yeah.
incomplete or complete. Then we import those and have that in, or we go in with most likely consultancy hat on, right? And
Yeah.
actually establish a taxonomy and set up in Accutics. So set up the flow there that they can use. Yeah.
Very, very helpful. Yeah, to have that help from the start, I think it's very useful. Well, thank you so much, Casper, for being the Lights on Data show, putting the lights on all these important aspects on data governance, marketing data governance, I should say, and of course the journey of transforming marketing data into business growth. Really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure, George. Definitely.
Thank you. Well, until next time, let's keep putting the lights on data.